Nuno and João are partners from the Walking Mentorship, and they bring the inside look in the life of the people they walk with. The podcast Keep Walking With Me searches for potential solutions towards the best version of ourselves. Every month, we walk together with a guest. There is a disclaimer that needs to be shared. After listening to this program, you might feel the urge to step outside and go for a long walk. But don't worry, that is absolutely normal. Welcome to the podcast Keep Walking With Me. Today, we have another very special guest, walking and talking with us. So let's start and ask, in a nutshell, who is Estas Tonne?
Well, let's start it right away. Because for many years, first of all, hello to everyone, and hello, dear ones that we could meet and have this conversation, Joan and Nuno. Estas Tonne, quite often people saying with the accent, which is not exactly the way I hear it. And for many years, I was cool with that until certain moment when I understood that it changing a little bit the music, what it is. And because it's not Estas Tonne, it's Estas Tonne.
Estas Tonne.
Right.
Okay.
And that changing a little bit the sound of it. And I think I already kind of answered your question because has to do with music. Has to do pretty much everything in life with music, but not with the music as we understand it, right? It's not just the pop, beautiful song on the radio that brings certain sentiment momentary. It's something else that we are all transmitting, and it's been transmitted through us as music, as sound, as vibration, or whatever it is. Somehow, did I answer your question?
Absolutely. I think it's a great start.
Yeah, I think you did very much. I know you've described your guitar or the playing of the guitar as your form of yoga, of spiritual guidance. And when we walk, and I mean really walking, going for a walk, do you think walking can be a different form of spiritual guidance, or for you music is more determining?
But it could be a sort of meditation also. You know, when this thing that happened to me many years ago in India called internal flight, which I've been about last 13 years, since 2012. That's when it happened first time, when I sat in India and played for 3 hours nonstop. And I saw I cannot play anymore otherwise than that from that moment on. So that thing actually I felt also was completed last year in a way of this long chapter. It's like a full cycle of sort. And what I was doing at that time, exploring that with a dear friend, a dear brother of sort, we were walking on the beach and doing exactly this. We were doing this very slow walking meditation. And people were screaming, calling, "Hey, stars, come here, come there," like lots of people on the Goa beach. And we just continue walking, being present with that, but walking very slowly to almost extreme of sort, right? And people were freaking out because we didn't give them any attention. So at some point we saw that some people started to join us behind, just walking with us very slowly also. And then at some point we would get to certain intersection and they would part our ways and they would walk away. We just kind of said namaste to each other without saying out loud. They continued their way, we continued our way. And we did this for a while. So of course, anything could be a sort of meditation, but yeah, it's just what came to my mind right now as a story.
Let me follow up on that. I was lucky to be in one of your live concerts, actually close to my place in Estoril, and it was such a journey. It was really moving in a way that felt more like a dialogue than just a performance. So I felt in communication with you, and I think people in your concerts feel that. How does that feel to you?
What year was that? What year did you join?
2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Because there were twice. Yeah, we're speaking about casinos.
Casino Estoril, yes.
So the first time I think we were there 2018.
No, then it was
Else.
later.
That was still a journey like I would normally do. But then 2023 maybe, or
I would say so.
2022, maybe 22, right? 22.
Yeah.
I went through some really intense inner journey just before that. So that journey was particularly special to me, right? So I never know how it's perceived by the crowd, because not everyone out of a field of we can call it the audience, right? Not everyone is prepared for something like that, because people still come to concert, right? And I think one of the main struggles I've had over all these years of touring is that people were not prepared what they were coming for. Because in the world of music, like normally there is a publicity, there is some sort of advertisements, and then people see some sort of glimpses, or they see a very old video that kind of runs them that whole train, such as in my case, Golden Dragon. It has 100 million views, whatever, right? So at that time, it was a viral video. Actually, Portugal was one of the main countries where it's exploded at that time. That was 2013 when that song exploded completely all over the world. And but I was not playing that anymore. I didn't play like that anymore. So that Golden Dragon kind of transformed into 3-hour journey in a way, right? So to me, every time it was also a challenge, because I could see that not everyone could vibe with that, because when we listen to a song for 4, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, some songs have more extended format. Some amazing, incredible era of 70s had these 20, 25-minute tracks. There was no problem about that.
Yes.
Music industry changed since then. And then there is new format of quick dopamine happen, especially now with the TikTok. It's this 1 minute thing. And what it teaches us is basically to perceive a lot of information in a very short frame. So it's teaching humanity right now not to really listen anymore, and this is what's going on. So to be at the concert or sound journey, whatever we call it, sound ceremony for 3 hours, could be intense experience, because a lot of things come on the surface.
Yeah.
It's like when you have a long walk, like when I was walking in the Himalayas also, there is a lot happens on that journey, right? So for me, walking the sound trip has a lot going on there for everyone. And if people are not prepared, sometimes it's incredible to see that something happens with everyone, but some would just be so shut down, they cannot perceive it.
Yeah.
It's a mystery every time, but for me it was always a blessing to share that, and to be in that space and explore myself, first of all, my own inner battles, inner beauty, inner conflicts, inner all of it.
That's wonderful, Estas. But I would like to go before there was music. I'm really curious to ask you, before there was music, who was the young boy trying to understand the world?
Are we talking about what age of a boy?
You can pick.
Oh, but maybe you pick.
Let's go to 12 years old.
Music and football. A lot of football and a lot of music. Music school, normal school, music school, and football all the time. So these were my three things. But normal school, I think we didn't get yet as humanity to the level where kids would really enjoy themselves going to the schools, all over the place. There are some alternative schools, but still it's on a large scale. It seems this world doesn't really want also for humans to break through, and be free in a way, in the expression, in the clear thinking, and so and so. But these new ones coming right now, they're going to change this. It's not going to happen anymore like that, like it used to be, you know. So school, which I've been battling with a bit, but still I had to do it, especially because it was era of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So we had no concept of countries at the time. It was one big country with different republics, but still there was one big massive country with all the ideology and all the infrastructure. And I didn't understand it, of course, you know, at that age. But music, a lot of music. I had incredible guitar teacher who introduced me to different dances of the world. I don't know what this man saw in me at that time, but I could not really sit still. You know, I was very active, and he had to find something I would be interested in. And I was interested in football, meaning I knew every major football club all around the world. You know, then I traveled the world, so pretty much going to all the cities. I knew what the football club was there. You know, sometimes I would even say who played at that time in that club. You know, but this was kid stuff, and maybe also with that kind of connection, resemblance to football and countries, he had something for me to explore. You know, so he would find some repertoire that I would be interested about, and yet the school was based on the educational kind of official education of USSR music school. So I had to learn certain pieces anyway.
Okay.
And then additional to it, he would find all these pieces, dances, Brazilian dance, Cuban dance, gypsy dance, Arabic dance, Jewish dance, all kinds. So that was my momentum. Any other age?
Um, I don't know, but I would say that maybe you would like to share with us just before you start really playing full-time the guitar. Right? You know, maybe you can remember, that nick of time just before.
As a
Who
kid.
was
As a kid.
as a kid? Yes.
Mm. I was 8 years old, so this is very difficult to
Remember.
No, it's not about remembrance. It's not like I've had some sort of a guitar hero that I wanted to study guitar because of that. None, not at all. You know,
Okay.
that era, I think, and that happens a lot in educational system. Parents want their children to be active in certain studies. You know,
Okay.
some are getting so much education, additional education to school system that would basically create a conflict for life.
Yes.
No, so they would try. The parents would pull the kids, let's say, study and dance and go study languages and go this and this to fill the whole week. So the kids would be busy the whole week without actual time of playing and doing
Yes.
nothing and just I don't know, be in that special state that we are at a very young age. You know, yeah, I've been blessed that I didn't have that, but still I had a certain times
Yeah.
per week that I had to go to music school. And my parents just asked if I want to go study guitar. I said, okay. First, they tried to take me to study piano, but I had some scoliosis, so they said, okay, it's impossible, but maybe guitar. And then I had to go do some gymnastics and training and being active in sports also, and running and athletics and judo and free wrestling and all kind of stuff like that. But at that time, I literally didn't have somewhat an idea that what I want to play because of something, right? So there was introduction. I said yes, but again, I had an incredible teacher.
Well, it's
You
wonderful.
know, a teacher from a big capital letter T. You know, because he was a very kind, very gentle man. Absolutely dedicated his life to teach the kids. You know,
Oh,
and I stayed in contact with him throughout all pretty much lifetime until he passed. You know,
it's
until he transitioned, but you know he's still around. But that was kind of the momentum, you know, for me to get the introduction to guitar world.
Mm. I can hear you, and you mentioned explicitly the idea of slowing down, of walking very slowly. I
Mhm.
also know that you stopped playing for a significant amount of time, I believe, when you moved from Ukraine. Um, and just now you were mentioning the importance of free time, of stopping, of pausing, of not always rushing, because we feel like in this world we're all, like you mentioned, TikTok, 1 minute dopamine cycle. Um, how do you feel we can counter that? How can we slow down the world so we can all enjoy life more?
I think it's not about us trying to slow down the world. I think we have each individually deal with our own observation, what is really going on within an individual, because the consequences of the inner battles manifesting as sicknesses, as accidents, as big fights with dear ones, with beloved ones, with divorces, and so and so. Right? There is infinite list of certain inner cataclysms that bring out an external manifestation of it, and all of that happens because we as humans, and I say for myself first of all, if I got too busy over a certain period of time, or I was not really walking my path, right? So let's say life have taken me on a certain trajectory that wasn't really mine, So I explored when I don't know what my path. I would be led by someone else, right? And if I would be led by someone else, it doesn't mean that it would lead me to the right place where I have to be, right? So what happens in such moment? Imagine you're walking through the mountain and you meet some guy and he says, I know the way. I know definitely the way. And he walks in, you walk after him. And then after a while, your inner voice would tell you, that's not right path. You would know, right? Let's say if we keep walking that way behind that man that doesn't actually know, we would betray our own inner feeling. And the more we betray our inner feelings, the more external manifestations of that betrayal would appear, right? So if we would trust that feeling, maybe I have just to make a stop and sit for a moment. I don't know where to go, but maybe I just sit. Maybe I just sit and wait for a moment. Would I have patience for it? Very often not. Very often life, or I would say our own being, would create circumstances that we would have to sit for a moment, either through this or that cataclysm or issue or body issues or accidents or whatever, right? So we have to stop for a moment. Right? Many times it happened to me. I didn't know where to go. I was just sitting there, took my guitar out and played and waited. And something happens. It take, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes and something happens. Somebody comes, somebody drive by. All of a sudden I get the idea. It's not like angels just came down the earth, but in a way it is also. Right?
Yes.
So did it answer your question?
Perfectly. Thank you.
So I think all of us going through this, and I am going through this again because I've had an incredible 10 years of touring around the world, from Asia to South America, some parts of South America. And I feel that I started to feel at some point that I cannot go on like this. So that led to a lot of distractions in a way, also within our team, within myself, first of all, and some sort of body manifestations that I had an accident many years ago, but there are no accidents. These accidents always brings us to some inner exploration. So I had to stop. So that was kind of like the end of our touring life. Now I'm sitting again, like many years ago when I stopped playing. And that time I didn't know what to play, but now I know what to play, and at the same time I don't know at the moment. So I'm taking also time off without all these mega dramas. Even though I've been through a lot of dramas within this last few years, so I felt like it's a good momentum to sit.
Well, that's the perfect segue. Estas, maybe you want to give us your first song, something like maybe old style, and maybe you want to explain why did you pick that one?
The Old Style is the name of the latest solo sketch album, and the original version of it came when I lived in the US. And at that time, it's kind of like was inspired by the 50s of sort, because it has this musical progression of a very old days, what the music was, kind of more innocent and simple in a way, right? And I played it in quite a fast pace at that time, at that era. That was more than 20 years ago, but I never recorded that. So when I arrived 20 years later for actually wanting to record that, it was coming out as a slow pace piece. So it's something I used also during this last tours as a lullaby, just kind of to say goodnight for everyone after an intense 3-hour journey. And I think it's for everyone to explore.
All right, so let's listen to it. thank
Well,
you very
this,
much, Estas, for this beautiful song. You mentioned just a while ago this tension, actually, I think, between structure when you know and improvisation. I don't know yet. I mean, in our practice in walking mentorship and especially personal development, we usually talk about the same tension when we hold the framework somehow to do the work, but then we leave space for something that needs to emerge and shows that we haven't seen it yet. How do you leave that balance off stage? Because on stage is easy. We can look at your videos, we can see how you do it, but how does it work when you are, back home with yourself, with your family? How does it work
Do you mean creatively or as a human being?
as a human being?
Oh, that's complicated. That's much more complicated. But this you can see also. When you watch a star sitting on stage, you can see there is a lot going on there. And I think if they're trained psychologists, of course, I'm joking, but still, they would look at the star's posture. They would see a lot of things.
Mhm.
But I think because of all these things, I've been doing what I've been doing. And I think it has to do with any art. So the more inner conflicts, the more inner battles, the more shaky uncertainties, the more or the less I know where am I going, or the less I know my identity and not even understanding my place in the society, brings all this stuff outside as a manifestation in the form of music, right? But those questions I've been asking for a very long time, to myself, to my heart, to my soul, right? What am I doing here? What I have to do, and ta 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 ta. And then when music happened, then there was no questions. But as a human being, I never could fit in a certain box. I still, even today, one of the most challenging questions when people ask me, where are you from? I can give them a whole story about it because I don't have a luxury to say, I'm from there. Like I would ask you, let's say I meet you somewhere on the walk or somewhere, yeah, and I will ask you, Joao, where are you from? And you would say, I'm from Portugal. I cannot say that. And I never could say that because like I could give you a whole story why I cannot say this. Because that's my setting.
Mm-hmm.
That's my setting since I was very young.
Yeah.
At the age of 15, I kind of lost that sense of a country, and then that country dissolved in a way. So that country doesn't exist anymore. And I know that I'm not the only one like that in the world. There are lots of people who were in or still are in the same situation. But I lived, I don't know, actually for some prolonged periods of time or coming and going for maybe 10 countries over these last 50 plus years, right? And at the same time, Portugal at the moment is the experiment for me. It's not even an experiment anymore. It's the place where I actually moved to. And this is not something I've been practicing to. So before I've been in Austria and Germany, but Austria mainly a state where I used that house where I stayed as somewhat a storage / restoration kind of cave place, right? And I still couldn't relate to that as a place of a home. So Portugal at the moment, I feel more and more that yes, this is where I am. But can I say I'm Portuguese? No. So all these inner kind of questions, they are also part of my daily life. So the quest for me personally is how do I find the balance in this unusual situation, which I know there are so many people are also at. Some people had to run from the war. That's not my case. The only war I'm dealing with is my inner one. And that's the only task really, actually, for the human Estas Tonne, being in his daily life and enjoy it also.
Well, thank you.
Well, that I feel like going back a little bit when you mentioned that your concerts are different from the past. So the internal flight approach is something that came into your life and that you share in your concerts. And I'm really curious to understand a little bit more, where did that come from? You mentioned something about India, but how did that come to be, and how does that translate? Because you also mentioned your concerts not as concerts, but actually as sound ceremonies. And I can very much relate to that, having witnessed it or having participated in it. And so give us a little bit the backstory of how that evolved, how that came to be, because it is very different from usual concerts, let's say, and
Um,
impactful.
Let me just do a little bit of a detour. So 2001, I arrived from Israel, where I lived for some time with my family, because we moved to Israel after from the Soviet Union.
Mhm.
So I left because I couldn't really be there. So I felt like I need to go. And that was, again, that moment when your inner calling is so loud that you cannot not follow that. So I had to do it. And it happened pretty much on the same week of the 9/11. I went to New York because I already had the ticket. So 17th of September, I went there to 2001. And then after 6 months being there, I received the guitar. So imagine more than 10 years I didn't play at all. I got the guitar as a present. And I went on the streets, I met the violin player. And then anyway, we had this whole 6 months of kind of initiation of sort for me to feel that I can do that. And then we parted our ways. I went to LA, and then my journey kind of began. But all this time, what I was doing, I would go on the street. I was illegal at the time in the US already. So the only thing I could do at that moment, or to look for some black money jobs, or I would just actually take the guitar and go on the street and play. And that's what I was doing every single day, 300, whatever, 65 days a year, pretty much, maybe 350 days a year. I would do sometimes 2 sets a day, 2 hours, right? Sometimes, yeah. So maybe the first 5 years, I definitely done that. Nothing else mattered at that moment. And I was hardcore education for me, to live off only that, nothing else. No bank accounts, no language pretty much at that time. I couldn't speak properly English yet. And no savings, no banks, no, really, you go out, you open your case, you plug into small, tiny amp, play. So all this time, the little songs were forming. Right? So there was one piece I remember since I was a child called Cuban dance. So it was part of the curriculum of the music schools. So people would recognize the piece because that's something that I played when I was a child. So that was my re-entry to music. And that inspired a lot of things that I've done and I still do, right? But and then I actually, over the years, I went to Cuba just to kind of give thanks to it, because it has some sort of Cuban rhythm in it. And I actually did the recording with the Cubans. It's called Cuban Heart, and people can find it if they want. But basically, over the years, all these shorter pieces formed, and they got their names. So literally like babies. So they're born, and then you see like the evolution of every song. All of a sudden, in one of the nights playing, it cracks and a new pathway created, and then give birth to something else. And then over the next months or two, I'm playing this variation of it, and it give birth to something else. And that's how I've been watching all of this grow. So by the 2010, I had a set list of sort that I could play pretty much a 2 hour normal concert where I could tell stories. And I already went to India by the time, and still playing those pieces that formed. So playing on the street also includes somehow preparation, of course, technique, of course, energy mainly, and then understanding the setting. Because to stop the crowd, you need to know how to do it, on the street. You can be greatest violinist, as you know, Joshua Bell tried to do this in New York many years ago when nobody stopped. You know? So you need to know how to do that. And I knew when I do this dren dren, bam, immediately in 5 minutes I have a crowd. You know? So at some point I completely lost interest in it. So I saw how it works. It was beautiful to do it, but I wasn't a machine. You know, so that was one of the reasons we separated at that time with this violinist. He wanted to do very fast paced, super boom, boom, boom pieces, every piece like a you know, psytrance in a way, you know, like that was not my story, you know, without the introduction to what I'm going to tell, I could not do it. So that developed over the years. And still not yet in turn of flight. Yeah, sorry for such a tour, but I'm going there, right? And so it formed all these pieces, like where I still had introductions, and then one heartbreak or another story or rootlessness that I felt on the way as well, because as I said before, I've been dealing with this. You know, I've been in France, but no residency, no proper place. I didn't feel like I want to live there, so I kept moving. I was going, let's say, for India for 6 months, coming back, being fully incredibly creative in Goa, full season, with meaning international, incredible artists, where we did musicals. We did every concert included like fire dancers and storytellers and dancers of any kind, and in Indian tabla and all kind of percussions and all kind of instruments and solo, and then with full collectives. You know, it was incredible playground. And then one of the days I came back to Paris. That's where I was mainly situated when I would come back to Europe. And I met a friend who I knew from India, and she said, I think it's your moment today. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have a very special kind of somewhat initiation into ayahuasca, and I feel I need to invite you there. And in that moment, I felt yes, so I went in. You know, and it came to me many times, but I never felt with anyone to go there. You know, but that evening, I felt absolutely yes, and that changed everything what I've been doing up until last year. So it changed completely songs that I played. It broke them into pieces. It broke them. It broke all the structures. It broke basically all the walls in between them. You know, I could never play music again, but it was not right away. It's not like a magic click, you know, and then everything changes. I never told this story until this moment. It's the first time I'm saying it out loud.
Okay.
Just so you understand, but I feel it's maybe time to do so. And in my case, in a way, like I can say it's been already 16 years. I'm still processing what I experienced that night. You know, because today lots of people go in one ceremony after another ceremony. It became very chic and fashionable and important as well, you know, but the amount of sessions people take in without integrating it can cause quite the opposite effect. You know, can bring a different effect to it. You know, so but in my case, I definitely saw that it brought something. It was also quite a funny moment when this woman who was holding the space, and there was a very small group. There were literally 3 people in the room, and I asked like, okay, so maybe I had to go somewhere on little tour, and I said, maybe we could meet soon again. And she started to laugh at me like, it will take you a while to integrate this, so don't rush to ask me to for another meeting, you know. And I've done some over the years, but that one changed everything. You know, so like literally that was 2010, and the internal flight happened only 2012 when the scene in India occurred, when I really sat and played for 2.5 hours, 2.5, 3 hours nonstop, right? But there was a gradual moment of change. I was not the same person anymore. You know, I still had to go on the street. I had to go travel. I had to play. I was doing all of this, but there was this something else that I've seen within myself and within the music that I just could not do otherwise but what I was playing, and that this is where the internal flight came from. It's not like it came during the ceremony. No, it came out of this inner exploration of shadows and insecurities and ancient stories and inner battles and the identity, the loss of the identity. At some point I had to take my whole troubadour clothes off, put them on the floor. I put his hat, white shirt, leather vest, leather pants, boots. I just kind of step aside and I was looking at that character from outside. And I love that character. It's a beautiful troubadour, but it's not only what I am. So over the years, of course, it kind of became, it had many layers of it. And it had also movement, and it had also other musicians to join that. Not everyone would vibe that also among the musicians because they didn't experience what I experienced. So I could only invite them, thinking they might have a glimpse of it. And to the most of the times, actually, it was incredible to see because they trusted me. We never did rehearsals. We just would go on stage with sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 people on stage without a rehearsal. But it was outstanding for me to see the trust and the love that we had between us, so they can join that, trusting that I know where am I going every time.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. I was listening to you, and obviously I cannot even dare to compare an experience that you just mentioned with a walking mentorship program. But when there's something that is definitely related, because when we finish a program, we understand that, especially an immersive program, 7, 8, 9 days, people go most likely to the deepest of themselves, and they emerge in the end of the program in a very different place where they started. And sometimes we have questions such as, when do you think should be the next program? And actually, I was just thinking, not very soon, because you need time to integrate. And I would even dare to say that anything before a year, you shouldn't do it, because you really need time for life to unfold. And one of the biggest challenges actually is to stay connected with yourself after a life transformation type of experience. So I do have a curiosity. What kind of practices or habits help you to stay connected to yourself, in a daily day? I mean, what do you do more or less to see, and more than see, to feel that you are on your path, more or less?
Over the years, I had all kinds. I've been doing yoga, I've been doing 5 Tibetans, I've been doing some Qigong, I've been doing meditations. I would go to Vipassana meditations. I would sit for an hour in the morning, in the evening. So all these things will come and go, and some for longer periods, some shorter times where I kind of got the practice, but it was not my thing, maybe, certain yogas, I would say. But music remained all these years. So no matter in what state I was or whatever I was going through, the first 20 minutes of the concert would be always this shaky space. It doesn't matter. I could not sleep the whole night, even though last years it was more difficult. And then it was 20 years ago, right? But this first 25 minutes in the sound journey would recalibrate the whole space. It would recalibrate me. No matter I was smoking and doing coffees, but this first 25 minutes would clear the space, clear my head, clear the space. And when I am in a much more clear space, it clears the whole area, right? Because the music comes through. It's not about the stars anymore, of course, right? And now, when I moved here with my family, it's another part of a story, where I have certain at least little practices, a little not ritual, but in a way of saying hello every day, you know, to the place where I am, to the earth that I put my feet on. I look at the sky, I give thanks. I give thanks to the ancestors, to all the lines. I give thanks to those I will meet. I give thanks to the body, to the cells. So like I have my little kind of thanks momentum, and it doesn't have to be so long. It's just more like I'm here. Okay, I can start my day. It's like brushing my teeth, and then I start to go on. I go on with days because at the moment I'm not playing. So that's the thing, like how I go on if I don't play.
Yes.
That was also interesting to me, how Esta as a person would live without having music as a constant vehicle for transformation and living. How would I live my life? And of course, I do what is in front of me right now. That's kind of my mantra. There's a lot of topics I have to deal with, and it's incredible. I use some muscles I know I forgot about them, and it's very healthy in a way that I don't have agendas, I don't have schedules and plans. For now, I can sit like this. I don't know for how long yet, but still, I don't have any plans. I don't put anything on the calendar until I would feel it.
Yeah.
You know, because in the music world or any performance world, you know, to book a venue, you need to do it a year before, 2 years in advance. I cannot do this right now. Not yet. Not until I would feel okay. Now I'm ready to go.
Well, that I don't know, Nuno. What do you think? It's probably the perfect time for Wheel of Life and the second music. And maybe you want to tell us what is this about? Because we are really talking about Wheel of Life actually in the few past minutes.
I mean, the Wheel of Life and, you know, the cycles of reincarnations, what the Tibetans speaking, and there is a lot of topics about this, and there's lots of teachings, and there's lots of, it's a whole world out there about that. But for me, it means also this inner battles. This also means that there is this inner exploration that not always am mine, and I'm trying to understand. What is it am I as a soul being dealing with on this earth, on the daily life, in this body, surrounded by the invisible threads that are here always. You know, so that's kind of what it is about, even though it's difficult to explain what music is about for everyone. It's like let's give a description to the skies that we look above us right now. You know, this is just a title. You know, just a moment.
Well, let's listen to Wheel of Life.
such a pleasure to take this little trips in our mind. I wanted to shift here our conversation a little bit because I remember I believe it was in an interview that you mentioned that we have these global narratives that are illusions that are, well, I think you mentioned stories of self-importance set against human insignificance, I believe I'm quoting you, but anyway, something close to that, possibly. Um, but my question has to do with how do we keep true to ourselves in this world so filled with narratives and conflicting narratives, by the way, and how do we stay present, grounded, um, and honest as all the noise around us gets so loud, but how do we stay honest with ourselves? How is your experience? And I feel like you were in a moment particularly good to explain, to talk about this.
Doesn't it get louder, don't you think? Isn't it getting louder and louder?
I think so, yes.
Because some of us that remember different kind of life timelines, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, there is this infinite time and so and so, but still we are dealing with this human linear time, so-called.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I think we've been here for a while already, so we can see that there is a definite difference, right,
Mm-hmm.
between what it's been and what it
Yeah.
is right now, in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because of our memories, we inevitably will be jumping the timelines, right? So we can see it gets louder and louder, and of course, the internet, and then the wars that are ongoing, and then the news are bombarded at us from all over, and the spraying lines above our heads and the skies we see. There is a lot going on, right? I think, and I speak for myself first of all, because I have to figure also my space in it, because no matter how I think I could be prepared for this transitional time that we live in, and it is a massive transition. Definitely it goes from something into something, and we are in it right now. Yeah, so somebody saying we are just coming to the potential golden age. Some saying this might take another 1,000 years for that. Some saying it's maybe just 10, 20, 100 years. Nobody knows, right? There are some people that analyzing it and reading the Vedas and looking at the Vedic astrology and looking at all kind of calendars and looking also at human design and so on and so on. There are so many tools to measure this and try to figure that. And yet this loudness, which we experience externally, first of all, is very loud inside of us.
Yes.
Right? And it gets louder. But what does it mean? Because the amount of insanity that we are watching right now, some would say it's a full illusion. And it is full illusion, yes, because on some surface, when we go above the clouds, beautiful blue sky, no problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are these gray clouds.
Mm-hmm.
So we are experiencing this. The question for me right now is also part of what I'm exploring as well. How much it belongs to us, or there is some sort of interference that constantly is present here, bringing those clouds that we cannot go above it.
Mm-hmm.
We can name it by different names. In different traditions, there are different names and titles for it. But the external manifestations of also our inner dealing with these energies could be seen right now in forms of the wars. All right, like who would think, how could we get to such a situation? And instead of keep on opening and opening and opening, it started to close and close and shut down and close and close to the point that it's hard to believe that it is 21st century on this planet. So I think each of us have to figure, and that's what I'm also trying to figure. It's not that I have the answer for it, because it is an extremely important and yet challenging time, especially also for those who kind of not taking sides for it. Let's say the Ukrainian war. It's very hard not to take the side of it. But it's also incredible to see that there is something else above all of this happening now. So many people had to move, and of course it's tragedy what happens. But then if you look at human being, an infinite being, then we look at this picture through the very different eyes, right? But how could you explain to someone that it is if they never done any psychedelics, if they never seen another perspective, they never received another perspective, right? So some people doing meditations for their life, and they see there is another perspective about this life. Right. Somebody going for ayahuasca trip, not as entertainment, but a really deep inner work. And they see there is something much wider and broader to all of this life experience. No matter what clouds are there, we are going through it. So I think, it's difficult to say how to deal for everyone. But I think each of us have to figure, like, maybe I've been doing too much and I have to stop. Or maybe I haven't done enough and I have to go on and start something. Maybe I've been traveling all my life, but I have to stop and just see what grass are growing here through the seasons. Maybe somebody always wanted to have a family, but they never could have a chance for it. But maybe that's exactly what they have to do, and call this beloved woman and say, hey, let's go for it. Or beloved man, let's go for that. So maybe for somebody is to cut the ties with other people that no more suiting the evolution or personal evolution. Maybe it's actually so toxic that it has to stop in a way. Everyone have to figure what has to be adjusted, readjusted, corrected on the personal, individual level. Because it's very hard to say and put everyone under the same thing. Let's guys all go sit in meditation. No, it's not going to work for everyone. Let's all go play guitars or other instruments. Maybe that's not going to work for everyone. But at this moment of shaky, each have to figure something. Because that's also maybe our ground this is the grounding moment for anyone. As a musician who spent like 25 almost years on the road, not playing is easy for me right now. I'm not hungry to be expressed or loved or appreciated. I've done my thing for a long time. There is much more. There's still more creativity to share. But I'm trying to figure, like, in the midst of all of what's going on, how do I find my balance without the drug?
That's it's extraordinary what you said, because I think very naturally our conversation actually moved to, because you mentioned touching the grass. And it actually shifted to an area that it's been always with us since the beginning of times, which is nature. I mean, there's so many things changing, but maybe because, again, we do our tours in the forests and mountains and coastlines, and we spend 280 days per year out there, which is actually not out anywhere because we are always in there and we are part of nature. But I would like to shift a little bit because, just last week we passed by a hope tree that the locals tell us that it will be more or less 1,000 years old or more. And every time I pass by, I like to touch the tree, and I always like to, at least in my imagination, think, well, if the tree could talk, well, probably the tree can. I just cannot talk with the tree, but I would love to ask, I mean, what have you seen during these 1,000 years? Because you have seen so many things, so many empires, grow and disappear, great people, good people, bad people, whatever, but it's always there. So nature is always there. And maybe we all kind of need to go back to those roots that actually are, again, since the beginning of times. I'm curious, what do you think what role does actually nature plays in your creative process, maybe in this exact moment of your life that you are way more connected, probably because you are traveling less, you are less busy with other things?
I'm not traveling at all.
At all. So what is the rule? I mean, is there anything you want to share with us, that may inspire other people that are listening actually to open the door, step outside, and meet themselves, maybe?
The thing is, it depends also where the individual lives.
Mm.
Because to be in the city today, it's really challenging. Unless someone really have to be in the city, in the big city, to follow their dreams, or they know what they doing, like really know what they doing.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what is the point? Because to be in the city, it's like disconnecting ourselves from that. And what nature gives us is actually a very neutral mirror of a feeling where we are. In some years ago, like when I said it today already, when I felt quite rootless, and tired, and it's a whole story, but I'm not gonna go into a story. But I was not allowed to enter UK, so anyway, and I knew I have to be there, but anyway, I got there, but I had to come back to Paris, and like, what am I doing? So I had some people told me about this monastery, very old monastery of Order Trinité. So they were in the old days. They were basically going to save the pilgrims that were captured during the Crusades and so and so. But anyway, that place gave me a pure mirror of how I felt inside myself. Those monks really rejuvenated me. And that was a very beautiful place where actually both lines were there, like both genders were there, men and women, which was like quite extraordinary for such a setting, but they were there, they were singing, I played for them, but nobody pressed and pushed me to do it. They really, for 1 week, just were helping me to restore. But mainly what I was doing, going there, sitting in the midst of the big trees, very ancient trees, sitting there just quietly and feeling how tired I am. Because in that presence, I could feel what's going on with my body. Being in the big cities mainly at that time, I would go Paris or go Dublin. I would go like around Europe in the cities, because that's where the tourists were, where I could play and make earn some money. And nowadays it's different, but that was my first impression. Like when I took myself out of a city kind of life, right? I could actually see how I've really felt without the dopamine, without the coffees, without the pumping energy all the time, energy of other people also there, so it was actually quite a neutral, clear mirror. Where am I? So nowadays I'm out of the city, in the middle of nowhere, in a way. And I wanted to be like this for some time. I don't know for how long am I gonna stay here, but it feels correct at the moment. And to say that I do some very special, particular kind of practice with the nature around, no, but I already have seen 4 seasons here. Even though still there is no snow here, right? But I've seen the 4 seasons here because I kept coming to this place before, slowly coming, seeing, yes, this might work. And then this house appeared. So I could definitely experience already 4 seasons, understanding that it's an essential part of life to see the different colors, when the grass changing the color, when the rain's coming, when it's cold, when it's hot, when it's wet, when, it's like, I mean, every country has its own setting. Portugal has its own setting. Austria was having another setting that I experienced before, which also I've seen 4 seasons. But that's kind of my reality at the moment. So I think for the people, to those who live in the big cities, I think right now it would be an essential question to ask. Is it the right place for me to be? What am I doing actually in the city?
That's
Well, that connects me to exactly the idea of improvisation. So in nature, things are not planned. You need to be ready to adapt to whatever it brings us. So many times we have this question from participants, which is, should I take water gear or not? And we always say, well, better prepare for whatever comes, because we never know. Nature will bring what it will bring. So if you have what you need in your backpack, you're fine. Worst case scenario, you don't use it. But somehow be ready to deal with that and planned to be present and just adjust to whatever comes. That is a lesson we seem to lose sight of in cities, essentially. Well, I would say in urban and let's say constructed environments where we're not in our natural environment. And I feel very much from your music, I feel there is so much unplanned. There is obviously a structure, but then there is so much flow, so much. And you were mentioning when you play with 8, 9 people in a stage without rehearsing, how much symphony needs to be there, how much capacity to connect and to just flow with each other and bring harmony from that. And many times in our mentoring programs, well, especially when we train other mentors, we always say the mentor is the best mentoring tool. That you need to be yourself. You need to be yourself fully there and trust yourself to do what's needed. How do you feel about this necessity that we keep having of looking for plans, looking for structure, when in the end we can be so much happier just flowing with whatever nature brings us?
I think, like, if I really look at the music also, and the music particularly that's been coming through me, I've been working with both qualities, structure and improvisation.
Mhm.
Which means, to me, it always resembles the Greek temple without walls. So it has the strong poles holding the structure together, but the wind can come in, right? The birds can fly through, and that's kind of my guideline for the music I've been doing for all these years. So it's not a jazz, but it has that spirit. It's maybe some intellectuals would say it's only 3 chords, and I would say yes. If you can stay in one chord for 1 hour, great. If you cannot, check why you cannot, because it's not about how many we do. And there are so many incredible musicians, and there are so many incredible artists of any kinds. But it's for all of us to explore what the structure is and what the improvisation is, right? Because we have a body, but we are spirit in the body. We are not the body, right? So that means that it's just a moment. It's something that just somebody trying to call, so I call. It's those 2 qualities. Oh, that's a good example. So somebody's calling. Imagine, like, for us to really be here, we need the body. For us to explore this life, we need the body. That's a structure. What happens through life, that's improvisation. We try to structure too much, it's about balance. It's we live completely out of structure and complete 100% improvisation. It's a madness.
It's chaos, yeah.
Everything has to be in balance in a way. Both qualities has to be present. And yet there is always a third quality. Third quality, what it could be, if we have those 2, the improvisation and the structure. What also is there? What is the third one? Because we always say, like in many cultures, we say there is this tree. It's magical thing, because there is a duality, but there is companionship, co-union of sort, co-creation of sort. So it needs some other element. We can call it whatever. We can call it divine presence. We can call it. There is something that always has to be also there, but it needs all the elements in balance to be in balance.
Yeah.
So when I say about people not, it's very hard to live in the cities. I would say, of course, not that everyone has to move out of the city and not live in the cities, but I think it's really important to ask ourselves, what are we doing in the cities? Because it's overpopulated, it's overpriced, all over the world, you know. And it's not that we need to create 15-minute cities. Also not. You know, this is also in another extreme that some humans want to lead the herd as they think of, you know, of everyone else. You know, I'm saying like it needs the balance, you know, where each of us has to find. Like I've seen this in LA many years ago when you know, Los Angeles, many people come for the dream to become an actor, to become director, to become musician, to be a writer, to be screenwriter, to be whatever, right? And then what happens with them? They come and they get a job and they get another job, they get another job. And then on the way, somehow they follow in the dream that fades away every single day, slowly, 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 slowly. And then after 10 years, they already have kids and a wife, and the dream was gone somewhere, you know? And then what's the point to be in that city then? What's the point to be there in that place? So I've seen also people leaving and going to the place where they really wanted to go, or they go back to where they come from, and they flourish and they open and they start something incredibly creative. But they had to go through this kind of education in a way. And so cities are still educational. Yes, it gives us the structure. Within the cities, we can improvise on a daily basis as well. But I think the core question to every human within our own heart is supposed to be like, what am I doing here? What's my purpose here? What am I doing here? Somebody's leading me somewhere, but what am I doing here? You know? And, this is one of the fundamental questions, right? What am I doing here? Who am I, first of all, to be doing?
And actually, I don't know, but when a person finds that way to the way to yourself, actually, it creates a great opportunity and maybe perfect segue for your third song, because it sounds like a reconciliation when you find your way to yourself. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about it.
Actually, that's quite a good direction. That's quite a good direction that you picked it. Because the first time I've heard about this term, reconciliation, that's where Nelson Mandela got out of jail and he started to protest South Africa. I mean, over the years, of course, we've seen the extreme was going another way, because now the Black community is quite pushing this whole other agenda, which is also, it looks like it's out of balance right now. I don't keep an eye really what's going on there, but I know that it never really healed the situation. That's what I know. Yeah, maybe it saved the country from actually a really disastrous war at that era, at that time. But it never really healed the wounds. Just it never healed the wounds in the States with the native people. Just it never healed the wounds between the Israeli tribe and the Arab tribe in Palestine and Israel. Just like it never healed the wound between Ukraine and Russia. Just like it never healed the wound of many nations in many countries, you know. And I think that's part of the great play of this life. But it's also a great opportunity, because this is where we could transcend as human race, if we could find a way to heal that, to heal those differences, these conflicts that also never about one and two and the second side. Conflict will always include many sides, many participants. It's always interesting who is standing outside side as well, taking part in that creation as well, right? Always is there, always. I'm not just talking about humans as humans, or countries, or companies, or strategy agents, but also energies, right, who is participating in that as well. So I think this whole track about, because we arrived to Iceland and I played probably the biggest venue in Reykjavik as a church, as this iconic church. And it was probably the smallest audience I performed to for a while. It was maybe 250 people in that space. But over many years, you know, for me, for doing all the tours, this was the smallest kind of audience in the room, but it felt holy. It felt really special. Also because of the acoustics, but still I was amplified using my effects, but it doesn't matter for me. It was 250 people or 10,000. In a way, it's like, for me, it's the same way. Would be, of course, maybe I would be pumped a bit more energetically if there would be 10,000, but still the expression would be as honest as it could be every time.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt there was something about it. And the word reconciliation kept coming over all the days we were in Reykjavik with my team, right? And I don't know why. Maybe it's kind of between the worlds. Maybe it's between the continents. Maybe it's situated in a way in the middle of the ocean. I also felt really special in Azorian Islands. Yeah, Azores as well. Yeah, it has that also special quality, being no man's land in a way, right? It's in between the worlds. But there in Reykjavik, it just kept popping this word. And then, of course, I don't go and externalizing it. It's about reconciliation of the nations. And first of all, it's kind of, what am I going through? Do I leave my truth within myself, with the people I work with the team that I cooperate with the continuous travel that I do? Even I felt completely burned out already. Yeah, I could give 100% every time, but daily I was already burned out for a while. So that was kind of my inner process. And yet it was also triggering the idea of how could we humans also get that common circle together, where such a process could actually happen, such as reconciliation between the nations, between the tribes, between the circles. I don't know, maybe just a dream, but I think this is also what was driving me all these years, stepping on stage every time. So this is kind of the idea about what this little track is about.
Sounds like a beautiful dream. So let's listen to it.
we always say that, and actually the idea is not ours, but that the first necessity for anything to become possible is that you believe it can be possible. So that you dream of something is the first step into eventually creating the possibility of it happening. So it was a beautiful dream. It is a beautiful dream, and hopefully we'll at least move closer to that. I would now we're going to the closing of our podcast, and we have a couple of, let's say, more personal questions. And I would ask this: what questions are you still trying to answer in your life's journey? To yourself, obviously, but those that you are willing to share with us.
I still deal with the identity thing, even though the more I question this, the more I accept the fact that this lifetime I had to be born in a country that doesn't exist, lived in a country that I didn't felt I want to live, moved on to another place that initiated me on many levels, and that I had to move all over the world, being always somewhat a stranger, and yet feeling that I am at home in a way, more and more within myself.
Mhm.
Because that's the only actually home that I can really pinpoint and to say, what is my home, real home? I'm not talking about these temporary countries,
Mhm.
structures that we are here in this reality for only a certain amount of time. But there is another home which we don't remember about. Some have glimpses, but still, at the moment, the only real home is this body I live in, my body. So that's what I'm more at peace with, and yet I still try. I'm still trying to understand why I have such a setting for this life. That I have such a created situation where I would live with such an identity of no identity in a way at the same time. Because from one hand, it's really freeing. It's completely free.
Mhm.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's also limiting because I have a certain passport and I have a certain places I can go, I cannot go, so
Yeah.
we still deal with this world that I have to face every time, like considering my language, the language I speak, where I come from in a way, So
Mhm.
like, I was laughing very often, and sometimes people will ask me where am I from, and over the years I had many jokes about this. Sometimes I would say I'm from Mama, sometimes I would say I'm from Esta, sometimes I say I come from this village that didn't even exist, many variations of it. But this is one of the main ones I deal with, and I still deal with this. I'm much more at peace with what it is, but I'm still in the process of understanding where this life takes me with
Mhm.
such a scenario.
That's wonderful. Because I'm listening to you and thinking, I think I did exactly the opposite trajectory in life. Maybe it's a good thing to be born as a Portuguese and having a Portuguese passport, because of course I was born in Portugal, but then I start willingly. I studied in Montana, and I loved the mountains over there. And I thought, I'm not sure I want to be American, but I could definitely be a Montanian because I really loved the people there. Life took me to Kazakhstan, which I loved as well. And I thought, I think I wanted to get a bit of Kazakh culture in my life. And then in Angola, a bit of Angola one. And then I thought at a certain point, I start struggling exactly, but for slightly different reasons, because I wanted to say, where are you from? And I was about to say Portuguese or Portugal, but I thought that's not really fair because that's not how I feel. And then the way I think I so far trying to solve it, I usually say I'm a human and I'm from planet Earth because I really feel that's who I am. And I know very little about the planet, but I found it to be so limitless, actually. because I was limiting a little bit myself by saying, oh, I'm Portuguese, but then I felt, no,
Yeah, but this is but it is limiting. And I think it's one of the greatest reasons why we have so many conflicts here.
I'm 100%.
Because imagine if we would recognize each other as divine, first of all, like, this whole greeting is namaste, it's the way to actually recognize right away something beyond this form and something beyond the nationality that we are.
Yes.
But we are definitely not there yet. And yes, some of us feel this, so we feel in certain moments, and then we have a challenge, and then we don't know that, because it is weird, but it's part of the setting.
Yes.
But it's not what we are. We're not those countries. We're not these passports. But it's also, there is something else as well about the calling of an individual to go places. The calling that I would say it's a soul's calling to go places. Who knows why we do this? Who knows what we have to connect with or reconnect with?
Yeah.
Or maybe recollect something.
Yes.
Or reunite something within ourselves. We never know. So many reasons.
Well, this is again, Estas, this has been a beautiful internal flight, the three of us. We have one final question. We like the question, but honestly, we really love the answers, because we repeat this same question to all our guests in the last 5 years. It's beautiful people that we had the grace to talk and walk with. So the question is, if you had a time capsule, so there is no limit for this time capsule, size, budget, you can put whatever you want inside, which can be anything, by the way. And imagine that we will send out this time capsule after this conversation into the universe. And who knows, maybe tomorrow, or maybe 1,000 years from now, someone or some entity opens this time capsule. What they will find inside? What would you like to place inside?
We could put this conversation there.
Wow. We could.
We could just put this conversation there.
You're right, Nuno. The answers are really amazing.
No, just because in the moments of spontaneity and openness and acknowledgement of the not knowing, the acknowledgement of insecurity and acknowledgement that we are, and I am dealing with my own struggles and pains. That's part of our real humanness. Not just polished, nice captured for the video on Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
Because it is our reality here with all these complexities. And if someone wants to study how we live here in June 2026 on the planet Earth, maybe it could be one of the messages we could share.
Indeed. Well, no, we cannot hear you.
Sorry about that. My dogs were barking, so I muted it, and then I didn't realize. Well, thank you so much. It's really, I always love this answer, but I love this conversation. Somehow I traveled a little bit to your concert, missing it, and definitely I'm gonna enjoy listening to Internal Flight right after, which we invite all our guests to do, all our guests, sorry, all our listeners to listen to. I'm sure each one of us will have his own or her own internal flight while listening, but we appreciate so much that you were willing to share so openly and so honestly your moment in life with us. Thank you so much, Estes.
So much, both of you. Thank you for this beautiful space. And
Keep Walking with Me. It is a podcast inspired by the Walking Mentorship experience. Step by step, we walk together towards the best version of ourselves. For more information about our mentoring programs, visit our website walkingmentorship.com.